Chapter 1138 changes everything that we know about One Piece, but to understand why, we need to know who Imu really is. Not who they are now, but how they came to be. Now, to understand who Imu really is, we need to look at the three different worlds that exist in One Piece's history. The first world shows us how a regular person became a false god through the control of resources and advanced technology, setting the pattern that would eventually create the Imu that we know today. Now, the story starts with power. And you know it's not devil fruits or hockey, but the kind that comes from advanced technology. An estimated 7 different moon civilizations looked down at Earth, seeing something that they really needed, being resources, because these moon civilizations had the technology, but they needed resources to fuel said technology. That's where a character who we'll call Proto-Emu comes in. Now this is going to be the god of Earth. Not a god, not really close at all, but just someone who controlled the access to the Mother Flame. And the deal was simple, because you had Proto-Emu and those around him that they just get advanced technology. The moon people get the resources of energy and workers, and that just helps them between those two. But, you know, as for everybody else, you know, well, they're the workers that work for both parties, enslaved for the purpose of developing a world that's essentially just not theirs. And as a point of connection, think about the Celestial Dragons for a second. Those spacesuits that they wear, you know, that's not really a random fashion choice, because they just all did it like that. Those suits tell us exactly where they came from, this outside world that's just not ours. And that's why they hold the position that they do to this day, because, well, the rich get richer. That's kind of just the only way to spin it. Well, where do I get all of this information from, right? You can look to Ohara for the idea of the 7 moons, and you can look at the murals and the Skypiea stuff and the archaeology of that, and everything that we're going to be seeing right now with the Harley. So it starts here. The earth burned in endless flame. In the hearts of men burned with desire. The Harley isn't talking about the Mother Flame itself here, especially when you look up to the mural that Frankie is looking at. It's telling us about a world that this Proto-Emu had created. Now imagine the situation that we had with Skypiea, but bigger. In Skypiea, we saw how a false god demanded sacrifices and used fear to control people, both Enil and the snake. Proto-Emu did the same thing, but scaled it up to cover the entire world. Now, Nolan showed up in Skypiea, and he killed one snake to prove that, hey, yo, your god isn't real. Now think bigger what happens when the slaves just stop believing in that false god altogether. And in addition to that, imagine that they actually get to the resource that they had been working for this entire time. Imagine that they reach the source of this power. The enslaved, they didn't just want freedom, they wanted to get past this and get away from it altogether. The Harley tells us that from whispered prayers, the sun god rose, beckoned by the enslaved who had reached for the forbidden star. The slaves that walked the earth back then, most likely the Buccaneers, they made a choice that would change everything. They actually reached the Mother Flame itself. Their prayers and their direct contact created something that this, god of earth, Proto-Emu character just never expected. The manifestation of Nika, the sun god. In addition to that, remember how the Lunarians can control fire and be immune and they're extremely strong? I don't really think that's random. I don't think that's random at all, and I think, honestly speaking, when the Buccaneers had touched the Mother Flame, they transformed. That's what I think. I think everybody that is like Lunarian based, or even the Shandians, I think that's most likely what those ones are called. All of them, they gained wings and they gained the power to fight back against their aggressors. Proto-Emu's response tells us everything about who they really were, because it said the god of the land was enraged. With a serpent of fire, they cast the world into ruin. This wasn't a show of power, it was rage. It was rage from someone who had truly lost their grip on power. A serpent of fire also implies that this is a being that can control it, or has at least fused with the fire. I think in the same way that the Buccaneers had potentially became Lunarians, a giant snake-like one that we had seen in Skypiea, most likely a more ancestral version that was a lot bigger, had transformed into something entirely different and a lot more powerful by making contact with the Mother Flame in the same way. So it's a battle of the Mother Flame between the many, and the red line is the outcome of this, because it's not a wall, it's not a weapon, it's a scar. I'm pretty sure that this is the case. It's a permanent proof of what had happened when someone with too much power had essentially lost control of the whole deal. Darkness fell, death reigned. How I see it is that the sun god Nika and the god of the earth, this proto-emu character, had a battle. That battle left us with the red line and the deaths of Nika, the god of the earth, or how I've been calling proto-emu, and this serpent of fire. The darkness is the implication that the world is no longer burning, no longer being fueled by the mother flame, and therefore all the means of production and slavery that had been enacted to create this advanced technology and fuel it and to colonize the world had been taking to a very striking halt because Nika had helped liberate the people. And that is just the first world. As for the second world, after Proto-Emu's death and the end of the first world slavery system, you'd think that the world would get better. But the Harley tells us a breath stirred in the abyss. This wasn't just a breath of freedom, this was something else entirely. Now, the god of the forest had showed up, and then suddenly we got devil fruit. So the Harley says that the god of forest wove their magic nurturing its devils. But here's what's wild about this, all right? Those of the half crescent and the full moon's dream. The fruits came from two different groups dreaming them up. I'm pretty sure that the Will of D represents that of the half moon, and I think that's the essential original humans. Maybe they have Buccaneer blood and they're just a part of everybody that was originally walking the earth then. And then you have the full moon dream, which probably leans more towards the other space civilizations. They still count those as the Lunarians, I guess, now that they've transcended into a whole different thing. But this would represent also the Moonites and probably even the original people that were the celestial dragons that had been the issue and made everything worse for the most part. So they got both the good and the bad side, representing what would go into the devil fruits. Their dreams, their desires, their hopes, all of the good and bad ones, all they got packed into these fruits. Now, while this is all happening, something darker is still being set. The sun lit the embers of war. Now, there's specific word choice being used here. These weren't new flames. These are embers. This is the same fight from the first world, but with new players entirely. See, the 20 kingdoms had a problem, right? The ancient kingdom was developing without slaves, getting stronger throughout their technology and unity. Now, the rest of the kingdoms, they were most likely falling behind, and they weren't going to accept that. They were probably stronger during the time of the first world, and they represented something differently altogether, but that's what happened. The first world got messed up, and they're like, okay, I see the ancient kingdom, I see the great kingdom, whatever it's really called, and what if we did that, but better? Now, think about the devil fruits that we know about, right? We have the Ope Ope no Mi that can grant immortality. We have Big Mom's Soul fruit that can just essentially manipulate life force in your soul and add on to one person if they really wanted to. And then we have various mythical Zoan fruits that are even just regular Zoan fruits that can control the user, transform them, and even just take over entirely. There's a lot going on right now, okay? I feel like Charlie when he was in that mail room in Always Sunny. But okay, let's get back to this, okay? The 20 kingdoms, they weren't just going to make a regular alliance. They wanted to build something bigger. They wanted to get their stuff back in blood. Look at the mural in chapter 1138, all right? Not only do I think that's the enslaved and they're holding pieces of the Mother Flame that's, depicting that, oh, okay, we're just fueling the first world entirely. That's what's happening there. But I also think that is another continuous depiction of the second world too. I think it's a double meaning because these could be representative pieces of their soul and they're giving it to Emu for godhood later. That's why they're transcending. The celestial dragons live as they are because they are contributing into fueling what Emu is. That's what my firm belief is. Now, here's what gets even more interesting, right? The 20 kingdoms didn't just want to win a war, they wanted to create their own god. Not like Proto-Emu, who just controlled the Mother Flame. They wanted something entirely different, something permanent, so they can maintain their power over everybody, right? So they had their life force offerings from their kingdoms. Someone most likely had gotten the Ope Ope no Mi and had made this asshole immortal. In addition to that, another mythical Zoan fruit connected to the world serpent to give them power that would definitively end the fight of whoever is going to come up on them. Why the world serpent, right? Because they wanted to connect their new god to the power that broke the first world in general, all right? Imagine a world serpent that has the power of fire and advanced for flight like a Lunarian, right? Oh man, this sounds like a really strong thing. Like, oh man, there's a serpent that has fire and fly. That's a dragon, a celestial dragon. Think about this, man. Think about this. We're cooking right now. Okay, put that to the side. Now, the god of the sea looked at what they had created, and they're like, man, this is terrible. This just can't go any longer. This is disgusting. You guys are abusing the hell out of these. Invoking the wrath of the sea god. This is what this means. This wasn't about just making devil fruit users just weak to water. This was the natural world rejecting something that's just fundamentally wrong. Like, okay, you guys have done way too much damage. Not only about this ancient weapon stuff, but everything you guys are doing is just messing up the world. You know, but the 20 kingdoms didn't care. They got exactly what they wanted. There's a new system of slavery. It's legal this time, again. They got their own god figure in Imu. They control who gets what power through these devil fruits, if they do have it, but you know, devil fruits got really far off, people died, etc., etc. And they had a way to erase any history that they didn't like. Think about this, man. Remember how Proto-Emu broke the world in a rage when they lost control? The 20 kingdoms looked at that, they made it, they're like, okay, we're gonna do this on purpose. This is gonna be tactical. We're gonna do complete destruction on anybody that messes with us like this. And the world government would continue on. They built Mary Geoise on the top of this, you know, Lunarian's home, the land of the gods. But, you know, this isn't just like a location. It's about replacement. They most likely wiped out everything about them. Especially, it's like, oh man, Lunarians were very popular. Of course they were popular. They were the ones that helped liberate the people too. They were the people. At least that's what I'm thinking that's going on, man. I swear. Emu isn't just an evil character. They are representative of dreams themselves. You know, Blackbeard once said a man's dream will never die, and I think that that was true for the 20 kingdoms. They knew they wanted power. They knew they wanted to be above everyone else. Regardless of how the dream was, they couldn't remove it from themselves. They had this in their body. We have to be better than everybody. Oh my goodness. They're evil in execution, but look to all that we've said about dreams and freedom. Luffy believes that the Pirate King is the one who is the most free. The Celestial Dragons in Emu believe that they're free to do whatever they want. So they believe that the one who is the one of all is able to act as freely as they want to. So even if you agree with, you know, like the timeline of my execution and all that, even if you disagree with it too, we can fundamentally just lock on to the key parts of how Emu came to be and who they are, right? Number one, the world has a history of technological colonization and destruction for the sake of advancement. That's a fact, like genuinely speaking. Number two, the enslaved had a liberator that had disrupted it all. That's a fact. Number three, the 20 kingdoms had come together to defeat Joy Boy and most likely funneled all of their power into Emu for this to be possible. That's most likely a fact. Let's be real about it. Number four, the god of the sea damned everyone who consumes devil fruit, as they are a large part of what had destroyed the world. That has to be a fact. And number five, they're going to meet again. And the Mother Flame is going to be a key point of war. Emu represents the dark side of dreams and exists alongside of multiple others that fuel these dreams. And the Mother Flame, as it's incomplete right now, has a lot to be desired from. And for all that all together, you know, I think I'm done here. There's a lot of ideas that I have, but essentially that's what I think Emu is. Not the god of the earth, but a chosen one. Now, how he was chosen, hey, look, maybe he had some Davy back fights between other people. I've seen the theories on that. Maybe he outwitted a bunch of people. Maybe he just had a bunch of like-minded people. That's the original Gorosei. It's very possible that the original Gorosei helped them configure this all and get it over the other 20 kingdoms. They didn't know what they were agreeing to, etc., etc. Because not all the 20 kingdoms got to benefit off of that. Just the Celestial Dragon people are the ones that are above all. Just fundamental stuff, you know. There's a lot to work with, but that's all I have for this video. I have to cover a lot more in a completely different one to put a lot more theories together, but yeah, that's the idea. My final theory is that Blackbeard will guaranteed get a Mythic Zoan. I don't know who has it right now. Maybe it's Loki, but he's gonna get a Mythic Zoan. It's the three. There's three Blackbeard skulls. He has a Paramecia, he has a Logia. I've been talking to my friends about this. He's gonna get a Mythic Zoan. I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm sticking on that. All right. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out. Godspeed. Love you. Bye-bye.